Welcome to the Sacred Rebels podcast, where we discuss life after trauma as we question societal norms and shatter stigmas. Are you a woman who longs for a sense of community and understanding? Well, stick around. There's a seat for you here. This is your host, Tay, and co-host,
Amy.
We're just two best friend millennial moms and entrepreneurs navigating life and motherhood while on a spiritual healing journey.
We don't do surface level, and we're definitely not your typical moms. So let's dig deep. We plan to cover it all and take you behind the scenes as we share our personal experiences. Learn more about the holistic side of healing and introduce all the incredible humans we've met along the way.
Join us as we, let's be honest, probably overshare the good, the bad, and the ugly side of healing. We hope to help you step into your power.
As always, we welcome everybody with a big deep breath as we breathe in through the nose. Maybe if you're not driving, one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, we breathe in. And just exhale. So as this is our first episode, we welcome everyone in. And we're going to start every episode with a pull from the Sacred Rebels deck, because this is the Sacred Rebels podcast. The Sacred Rebels guidebook. We always give a shout out to our amazing woman, Lana Fairchild. We appreciate you. This deck has got us both through some really hard years. And we are just always so grateful for any powerhouse of a woman. So we'll just pull a card, say a little message, and see what the universe has to say before we start oversharing.
Oversharing.
So the message tonight is
9. What do you feel? Let's see.
Feeling and healing.
If you don't know, now you know. That was going to be one of our podcast names. We put a little poll on Instagram and everyone just ate up the Sacred Rebels. So here we are with the Sacred Rebels name. But
this one was really important to us because, like,
it was.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's probably one of our main messages, definitely one of mine, that we have to feel to heal.
Yep.
And here we are, like
refill and refill and refill and refill.
And, you know, and the end goal is that we can promise when you do that and when you're ready to feel and like dive into whatever feelings come up, the healing is the other side of that.
Yep, definitely. So, with that being said, here goes nothing.
Here goes
nothing. Should we read what this says?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe just like Cliff Notes.
We'll give you guys the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, because sometimes these readings can be really long, and I know you guys are
But
so excited to hear how we met, because that's tonight's episode, is how the two of us met and our journey over the past, what, is it 7? 6? What year?
6 years.
6 years?
6 years now.
6 years when?
Well, it was 2016, so 6 years.
You would
7
know.
years in November.
Okay. All right.
So.
Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Let's hear what it's got to say.
Okay, there are many opinions around you. Some are helpful, but others are distracting you from the truth. Although it can be helpful to hear the thoughts of others, when it all comes down to it, you will have to come to your own decision. Do you know how unique you are? Fire. How your path is your path to be chosen, lived, and created only by you. Someone else cannot become the source of your decision-making power without negative repercussions for both you and the long run. This oracle comes to you because you have become swept up in thinking things through. You have been thinking about which way to go with a matter of importance, and you have got to stick in the logic of the decision-making process. Sometimes we have to accept that any path is a path forward, and if it is not the best path, we can change our approach later on if needed. If we are slightly off base with a decision, life will often shift and move to guide us back on track. We don't have to be perfect. In fact, there is rarely ever a perfect choice to be made, just some choices that feel more heart-honoring than others.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, and that's our biggest thing. And that there isn't a single path. There's never
Yes.
one path.
No.
It's just so individual. And we've just met so many people along the way and met so many people that have lived different paths that we just knew that we had to start speaking out loud, because it just feels like everybody thinks that there's like this one way and it's so rigid and it
One
has
way,
to
the
be-
only way.
Yeah. And we're
It's just not.
It's not.
It's not. And we're just here to shatter stigmas, honestly, right? Like, there's stigmas for. Okay, let's just preface this by saying, like, we met in recovery, right? So there's these stigmas of, like, once an addict, always an addict, or, you know, the idea of what an addict looks like. Like, for me, it was always like, oh my God, you shot heroin. Like, you don't look like you would ever shoot heroin. Like, that's a stigma, right? Like, we think we know what someone looks like, but we don't. So we're just here to kind of like question societal norms, right? Like, what society teaches us, what we should be doing for our mental health, and all of the things, and specifically like recovery related, because that's how we met. But we also just kind of want to be mindful of what we say, because we do know that we have a lot of recovery community in our circle, in our following. Yeah. So I've always hated the word following, because I feel like it's just so like.
No, we're not. We don't want that. We want to empower everyone. We don't want to seem it to be like that at all, or that we're like better, less, any of those things. It's just that we're different, and what we were taught and told isn't our truth.
Exactly.
And we've met so many people along the way since we've kind of separated from those things, that have had the same truth as us, and it's just not talked about. So there was like a lot of shame and like a lot of things that were brought on that we don't want a single person to ever feel the way we've felt over the last couple of years. So if you're like
a lot of question marks, I feel like there's a lot of question marks around it. So we're just here to set the record straight. Give you
watch what happens.
Give you a little plot twist to this story, because this is also like, okay, so this is another thing, right? Like, me and Aim have a very large social media presence. She was very like well known in the recovery community in AA, like what, 11 years, 10, 11 years in the AA community. Like, when I tell you, like, this bitch is like, she's known. She's too known. So like, there was a lot of, I don't want to say like outrage, but there was a lot of like, oh my God, she fucking left AA. Like, kind of like that. Like, a lot of questions. AIM was my sponsor. She's not.
Yeah, let's rewind.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. That's fine. Welcome to the first podcast. And we knew this was going to happen.
Guys, we have no idea what we're doing, by the way. This is our first ever. This is like, we YouTube this shit and got it all set up, and here we are. Like, we're learning.
And we just really want to be raw and honest and vulnerable, and just like remind everybody, like, this is just us. We just like feel it in our hearts that this message needs to be shared, and we've been talking about it for like the past 8 months, honestly.
Yeah.
That it's just, and we have so many people lined up that are the same. Like, we're not the only ones. Like, we aren't just like out here like, oh, you know, we're the only ones.
The rules are made up and we made them up. Like, no, that's not it.
It's not. We're like, there's a big community standing behind us, and I'm really excited to like bring everyone in. But we'll backtrack just a little bit about how we met and our journey over the past 6 years, because it's honestly so beautiful. And like, I have multiple relationships that have like this, that have grown like over meeting through recovery, and still honoring and accepting everyone's pathways, right? Like, I still have really close friends that are completely sober, and like, I still have really close friends that aren't, and like, there's free of judgment. But I also lost a lot of people that I thought were the closest people to me and that I would have never
I know.
lost in my
Yeah,
life.
a lot.
And that's fine, and that's like everybody's journey to like have this understanding, but I just really need to, you know, share our truths and like share like what it is and how that made me feel. And like when people talk
100%.
about community and connection and like, you know, friendship and sisterhood and those things, and like I'm not going to talk about anything negative. We're not AA saved my life. The
Yep.
12 steps saved my life. This isn't oh my god, AA is the worst thing. The people, you know, it's just it's
Yeah, this
human
isn't like a
experience.
shame AA, fuck AA podcast. This is not what it's going to be about. We're simply just talking about this and touching on this the very first episode because it's so like prevalent and important to like how we met and where we are and why we're doing this. So I think it definitely needs to be talked about. And there was like a lot of going back and forth, right? Like, do we say this? Do we not? Because again, we have a large like following on social media. I hate that word followers, but like we have a lot of friends, right? We have a lot of friends in recovery. We have a lot of people in our lives that we've worked with, like as sponsors, sponsee relationships, just like friends in the community, whatever it may be. And we never want our message to ever hurt someone or have someone think that, oh, they're doing it, I can do it too, because that's not the message like we kind of want to spread. Because unless you face certain things and heal in certain ways, whatever we talk about next will not like relate, like it won't pertain to you or relate to you because there's things that you still need to heal from, basically.
I personally stayed completely abstinent and sober for 9 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I did 9 years, and in those 9 years, I didn't only do the 12 steps. I did EMDR therapy, I did Landmark, I
Yeah.
did yoga trainings, I've worked with a therapist and energy healers, and I've done the 11th step. And like, these are all the things that we're going to talk about, you know, over however long this podcast exists, hopefully forever. You know, the different ways of healing, like every different way of healing that I've tried over the past 9 years, I'm going to bring somebody, invite somebody in, talk deeper about those things so you have a deeper understanding that if you continue your healing journey and if you stay sober and you fix the reasons why you drank and drugged the way that you drank and drugged, that you can heal yourself and that you
Yes.
don't have to be sick forever
Yes.
is the end goal, right? Because like,
Yep.
who wants to say I've been sick my whole life or I've been born sick or any of those things, because they really just didn't start to align with who I was as a human being anymore. And we're going to get deeper into all of those things. That's the goal. That's what we want to share. And Tay had the same experience.
Yeah, we really did. So let's back up. So me and A met probably, yeah, almost 7 years ago now. So a little bit of my backstory. Heroin was like my drug of choice. I was a heroin addict. I came into the program, into the program of AA as a heroin addict. But I think AA just resonated with me a little bit better than NA, just for like, I don't know, just the principles, all of it. And so I came into AA as a heroin addict. After my last overdose, I had overdosed for like 11 minutes. Every single doctor, EMT, they all said it was like an absolute miracle that I wasn't brain dead. And I think that was like my, my wake up moment. Like, okay, this is not the life I want to live. This is not the life I'm meant to be living. And I truly believe in that moment, I died in order to come back a different person. And that's like, we'll talk more about this too, like, soul contracts and all the things. And I truly believe in that moment, like I signed a different soul contract and I came back a new person. So fast forward to those next couple weeks, I detoxed. My mom detoxed me at home. Angel mom, shout out, you are the
Oh my
absolute
God,
best.
she is an angel. We love
Yes.
her in
An
so many
angel.
ways. Yeah,
Love
she's,
her.
you know, I'm just so grateful when these relationships happen and
Yes.
these moms take us in and we're just like all family.
Yeah,
right?
family. So she detoxed me at home. It was an absolute nightmare. I mean, what's that movie with Mila Kunis? And she's like, it's like 7 long days or something.
Yeah.
and she's detoxing off heroin.
Yeah.
Whatever. That movie's like the perfect description of what me and my mom went through. And so yeah, fast forward, one of my friends, Shannon, she also is a recovering heroin addict, same journey as us, kind of, like she's on the same path as us. And she reached out to me and she was like, hey girl, like I'm not really in AA anymore, but my friend Amy is, and like you have to reach out to her, like, you know, she knows the way, she'll show you the way, like whatever, da 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 da. And I was like, all right, awesome. Found Amy on Facebook. Reached out, found out that she lived in like the southern New Hampshire area, and I was like way up north, like on Lake Winnipesaukee, so it didn't kind of like work out right away. Fast forward a few months, I'm going to meetings every day. I meet my husband. I meet my husband at a HA meeting. Shout out to Heroin Anonymous and baby daddy Dill. And I instantly, like when I say instantly, bitch, like instantly move in with him. And everyone said that we were going to fail, we were going to relapse, all the things, but we just knew it was different. So
Another thing, like that's it,
yeah,
right?
they
like,
tell you not to get in relationships. They tell you not to do these things.
control.
You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, you're sick. You're sick. You're sick. You can't trust yourself. You can't trust your judgment. Like, we'll touch on all of these.
Yeah, we'll just mental note that one.
Yeah, mental note, side note. So he has me move in. He lives in southern New Hampshire. I'm like, great, this is it. I'm going to meet Amy. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to reach out to her. I'm going to find a new sponsor. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I end up going to a meeting where I knew absolutely no one. One of my friends had just got out of a detox treatment center in Nashua, and she wanted me to go to this meeting with her, so I went. Amy ends up being the speaker at this meeting, and I remember her sharing, and I was just like weeping in this tiny little crowd. I'm like crying, and I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to her after. I have to get like her information. Like, this is definitely the girl that Shannon was telling me about. So that's how we met. I went up immediately after, asked her if she could be my sponsor, if she was willing. She had just had you had just had X. You had just had your 6-year-old. So yeah, 6 years ago. And you were like, wow, like I never really do this because like I'm so busy right now and I have so many sponsees, but like sure, like if you can come to me, like I'll sponsor you. And I was like, perfect, like willing to do the work, whatever it fucking takes, right? Like I'm willing to just do it. And
that's what you have. Like, that's it, right? Like, it gets to the point, and I always used to talk about it, and I used to talk about it when I share, like, it gets to the point when the want to stay sober is bigger than the want to drink or drug. And, like, that's it. So you just, like, get to a shifting point where you're like, I am just willing to do anything it takes.
Yep.
And this is what I would always say to anybody that I used to sponsor. Like, even today, like, I still have to have these conversations because I work in treatment and I do what I do now in treatment centers. And I always say it, like, it just gets to that point where it stops working. The drugs and the alcohol stops working, and you have to be willing to go to the depths, to feel the things that made you treat your body that way.
Yeah.
It made you drink and drug that way because you were running from it. You were running from the pain.
Yeah.
And when you can sit with yourself and remove yourself from the drugs and alcohol, you can understand what that pain and that trauma is. And that's what the steps do, right? Like, it brings you to that place of healing, finally.
Facing it head on. Getting it on paper.
Getting it on paper, writing it down, surrendering to somebody else, finding a community. All of those things, like the 12 steps and the basis of the 12 steps, are so important.
So important.
And even though I've left AA 3 years ago, almost been 4 years, that I still do all the principles of the steps.
Exactly. Same.
I still help other people. I still am constant thought of others. I am still working on myself. I still understand and have a deep inner knowing of my character defects. And I'm not perfect.
Exactly.
And I still cause harm. And I have to say I'm sorry. And I have to make it right. And I have to do my best to do the next right thing. Cool, if I can keep those principles and also, like, not be sick and live a normal life.
Yeah.
It's the gifts.
Yeah, me and my husband still do it. Like, Dill will, like, we immediately do turnarounds with each other. Like, he fucks up, I fuck up, and I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, this is where I was wrong. And, like, you know, he's a little better at it than I am, but...
Yeah,
but that's
you're a Sagittarius, so we'll just go there with that. We love you all. All my Sagittarius are my babies, so all my best friends. And, so... Here we are. I, at the time, was 5. God, how long? I was about 5 years sober at that time. I was, I was just somebody that just always reached a hand out to a woman. I always sponsored multiple women. There was times when I had 12, 15 sponsees. And at that time, I was having sponsee dinners at my house where we would all go. The Wolf Pack. Shout out.
Shout out to the Wolf Pack.
Like, that's just like who I was. It's still like, this is who I am. That has never changed, even though my life has changed. Right now I have this space where we are, and now it's just bigger and grown. But I would have 12, 15 women at my house. I cooked dinner and we read the big book together and we shared our experience and we shared community, and like, that was it, right? Like, that is what this is about. We need the drugs and the alcohol, separate us.
Yeah.
It separates us from you, me. It makes you feel so alone. I'm so alone. I had all this trauma and I had this rough life and I'm in this victim state. But when I can remove myself from the victim state, and we will be talking a lot about not playing the victim, because that is not it. It's not going to get you nowhere. If you can remove yourself from the victim role, it's not getting you anywhere. It's only going to get you stuck. So we're going to talk about a lot of forgiveness. We're going to talk a lot about grace, and community. Like, this is why we're doing this.
Connection.
Like, when you can sit down with somebody and be like, oh my God, you had the same exact trauma as me the first 10 years of your life.
Yeah.
And you held this secret in for so long. Because I'm going to tell you right now, probably 90% of the women that I sponsored over the 10 years that I sponsored in AA had some sort of child abuse, sexual trauma. Because
it's fucking sick, you guys. Let's just put that statistic out there. Like,
yeah,
it's way more common than you think it is, and it needs to be talked about more, and that's the sad part about it. It's like the society has made it so hard to speak about it, right? Like,
and that women carry so much shame and guilt and, like,
toxic shame, like toxic shame. It keeps you so sick.
Yeah. And to just know that you're not alone. Like, that is our main goal here. Is, I don't care if there's one woman out there that hears our story that just is sitting at home listening or driving in her car or whatever and just like goes, oh my God, I am not alone. And they see me. Like, we see you and we feel you, and you're not alone. And that's why we started the Women's Circle, because we want people to be able to come and join. And, like, hopefully, if you're hearing us in different states, like, start a Women's Circle, because people need community. We need connection. And that was my greatest lesson in AA. Like, that's what I learned. 12 steps, like, brings you to that. Like, it brings you to that point to know that, like, you have to heal. You have to surrender to something bigger than you. And
you need to be part of a community.
Yeah.
You can't isolate.
No.
All of the things. Yeah, the principles are so important. And I think that it just goes to show that, again, not everyone's journey is the same, right? Like, so personally, like, we know tons of people, right, that are still in AA multiple years, tons of success stories. Like, AA saved our lives. This is not like a bashing AA podcast whatsoever. This is literally probably the only time we'll speak about AA. And it's only to preface this entire podcast again with, like, where we're at, how we met.
Yeah.
This is like us. We left AA a few years back now, and there's been a lot of question and controversy and rumors and gossip in our community of just, like, how sick we are or how unspiritual we're living or all of the things, right? Because we left AA, and I just don't think it's right. Like, it's like that double-edged standard. Like, you either are in AA and, oh my God, she's in AA, like, what the fuck, she needs help. Or, like, you leave AA and it's like, oh my God, she left AA, like,
we can't talk to her.
Yeah, we
she's
can't
toxic.
talk to her.
She's bad
she's
for you.
Sick. Like, she's gonna relapse.
She's
She's
on
a drug
spiral.
addict. Yeah, she's going downhill.
Yeah, she'll,
nowhere.
oh my God, if she's, doing A, B, and C, like, she's gonna end up shooting heroin within, like, it's just fear.
Very fear-based.
And that's understandable, right? Because we live in a fear-based culture, and it is scary. And when you care about somebody, like, I can deeply understand and I can deeply see the fear and, like, why certain people could potentially feel that way or have that opinion because of what was programmed through something that
Yeah.
for sure, like I had those own fears and those own thoughts. And, you know, there's a lot of pieces in our personal lives that we're going to probably organically end up talking about. I know for me, what happened and that I had multiple surgeries that like I didn't take opiates.
Yeah.
I've had 3 major surgeries in the past 3 years. Major surgeries, organs removed, you know, all the things. And I chose to not take opiates. And I could have. I've had prescriptions of multiple opiates that I chose personally to not take because that is not where I need that in my life. And I used, you know, medical marijuana as an option for me and realized, you know, through that process that, you know, maybe the things that I was taught kept me where I was because I needed that information at that
Yes.
time. You
Yes.
know, and I completely
Amen.
understand that and trust every single piece of my process to have the deeper understanding of being like, I don't have to be sick forever, and that I'm able to have processed the trauma that I had gone through as a child from, you know, the age of 5 till I was, you know, 10 or 11, that these things happened to me and that I was running and I was escaping and I was doing all of these things because I didn't love myself.
Exactly.
So the process of, you know, staying completely sober and like doing all these other avenues of healing, 12 steps being the main basis. But once I leveled up and I had done the 12 steps and I had written my 4-step a bunch of times and I had like done all the things where I just didn't feel like I could go any deeper personally, but I was craving it. I was craving going deeper.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. And there's going to be some people that don't crave that. And they're
Yeah.
just so happy
They're
living.
content. Yeah.
Yes. And I love that.
Me too. Like, good for you, sis. Like,
Yes.
kill it. Like, you're killing it.
Yes.
So continue to kill it.
Please.
Yeah.
And don't take what we have to say into consideration. You don't have to do anything else. If you wake up and you're happy and you're not like seeking something deeper, or you're not like, and that's not me saying like, oh, you don't want to go deeper. Like, that's not it at all. Like,
No.
sometimes like that's it. Like the 12 steps, you can get there with that.
And again, not everyone's story and trauma is the same, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's people who come into AA and have not necessarily even like gone through significant trauma. Like, I mean, not just like be like, oh, like us, but like, you know, significant years of childhood sexual trauma. Like,
Yeah.
there's not many. I mean, there is a lot.
There's
a
a
lot
lot.
more than I'd like to admit, but not many come in and are like, oh, this happened to me at this time. Usually it's like you're running from some sort of trauma.
Bad relationships,
Yeah,
which
bad
we're going to talk
relationships,
about.
like all of it. Like
Just abandonment,
yeah, abandonment
or
issues.
divorce, or,
Yeah.
you know, there's just so many layers and levels.
So
and
many layers.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody is doing amazing. If you're happy in your life, you're doing amazing. And we want
Exactly.
you to stay happy in your life. If you're not happy in your life and you're not feeling fulfilled and you're feeling like you're stuck in this place, like, there's also these other options.
Yes.
And there's also this way to feel completely fulfilled and completely filled with self-love and like feel so good about who you are and the decisions that you're making that the noise outside just really doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Doesn't matter.
And it takes time to get there.
Yeah.
Because some days I'm in fetal position and
Yeah,
I'm
and listen,
crying
that's
and I'm
just
feeling it. And
like, that's just it, though. We're not here to say, like, oh my God, we're healed. Like, yes, we've done a lot of healing. We've done a lot of significant healing. But, like, again, life's a journey. We're just living it. And, like, we have still so many lessons to learn. And we have so much healing to be healed. Like, we have so much, like, healing left. Like, this is just a little blip of, like, our story. Like,
Yeah.
of the bigger picture. Like, just such a tiny little fragment. And the reason why we wanted to finally come out and open about all of this and say, like, yes, we left AA and kind of address some of those things, just because, like, we know for a fact, because you're about to hear from a lot of these women who, again, have left AA or have left some type of program that they once were in and still live a certain way of life, but they're just not in that program. It's because we know deep down there are people and women out there who desperately are searching for some type of belonging and sense of community because they feel like they don't fit in with AA or NA or recovery dharma or like whatever type of other programs there might be. Like they're just feeling like, oh, maybe that's not where I'm at, or I've done it and I'm over it, or I've done it and I'm past it, or I've done it and I'm trying to seek other avenues. That's just what we're saying. We do not want anyone, and I want to like reiterate this so many fucking times.
Yeah,
we don't want anyone to leave the program that they're in just because we're saying that we left. If you are happy in your program, and if you are killing it in your program, and if you are wildly successful with years of sobriety or months of sobriety, days. If you are killing it right now in your recovery, stay where you're at and just listen to your heart and follow your instincts, because that's where it led us. Like this wasn't just like I woke up one day and was like, oh, see you later, bye. It was like this gradual transition, I feel like.
Deeper questions.
Yeah.
I started to ask myself deeper questions, and you know, that's my main thing and my mission here at Sacred Moon is to show you your power and to know that, like, I always talk about it, and I think it's the coolest thing, like, our bodies are capable of so much. And what I feel like the biggest discredit that I learned in AA and if, you know, or 12 steps in general, is that you can't trust yourself. And inside of each and every one of us, we are our own divine inner healings, like inner healers. Like our bodies know how to heal us. If you get a cut in your arm, your little white blood cells like go to the cut and like take care of it from the inside out.
Yes.
So if you hear something and it resonates with you, like, and you trust your gut, like we have our own, like our gut instincts, right? Like everybody has the divine inner knowing of what they're going to do is right and wrong.
Yeah.
Like we all know, like you all know before you're going to do something fucked up, you're like, I probably shouldn't do this. Like, you know that, and like you should trust that. And like the same thing when you like hear something in a 12-step program or hear something in church or hear something on a podcast and you like get covered in goosebumps and you're like, oh my God, like I can feel that on a soul level.
Yes.
Like that would work for me. Like our job and like what I really want to do and like what my biggest passion is for people to honor that and to like trust that divine inner knowing. You are your greatest healer.
Listen
and
to
it's
that little voice.
You that's going to show up for you. It's you that has to do the work. Nobody else did it for Taylor. I didn't do it for Taylor. Like I gave her suggestions. She would call me and I would tell her, you know what I mean? Like these are the things I did. This is how I did the things that I did. And she chose to take those suggestions. She chose to do the work. And some of them she chose to not do. And you know what I mean? And those are the things. And that was her path and her journey. And it's the same thing as me. I had multiple sponsors and so many amazing women and so many amazing coaches and people that like told me what to do. And they also told me what not to do. And I did the things that I was going to do in every piece of it. And I've made really messed up mistakes and I've done really messed up shit and I've caused a lot of harm and I've done a lot of things. And that's normal.
Yeah, same.
But what
everyone.
like we are human beings and it is our job here as human beings to learn the lessons we need to learn, and that's it. And you know, we have to start doing the shadow work. We have to start doing the things, right? Because like the longer I hold shame and guilt for all the things that I've done, I was a homeless heroin addict. I was, you know, an exotic dancer. I, you know, had babies out of wedlock. You know what I mean? Like all the things. Just, I'm covered in tattoos.
Societal norms.
Societal norms.
Guys,
we aren't here for that, right? Like the rules are made up. Somebody made them up. Other than there's some like solid rules, right? Like, don't say anything nice. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Like, come on, people.
The golden rule. Everyone knows the fucking golden rule.
Like, be kind. Don't do harm. And if you do harm, do your best to make it right, because we are human beings. We are going to make mistakes. There is not a single human being out there in the world that doesn't make mistakes. And even though I've been sober for a long was sober for a long time, I'm not sober anymore. big news, that I have still caused harm over my years.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, I'm not proud of a lot of things that I've done. It is what it is. Unfortunately, I've caused a lot of harm, but I try to make it right. I try to do what I can. And if, people can't find forgiveness, like, I also have a deep understanding of that. But it's also not going to change how I show up for the rest of the world. I'm still going to do what I have to do. I'm still going to show up in my light, and I'm still going to show up in love. And like, that's it, right? We have to learn. And hopefully I will do my best to not cause that same sort of harm again. And if I do, you know what?
Yeah, you learn from it.
I'm going to learn from it, and we're all
Life lessons.
still going to breathe in the next moment.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to die.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like, I think, and that's another thing too. Like, it wasn't like, oh, AIM left, so I left. It was like, we came to each other. I think it was like around the same time, like right before my wedding. And it was like right after COVID, actually. It was like right after COVID. I remember specifically because those few months in COVID were like sketchy and scary and like whatever. And I think I was like kind of forced to look a little deeper, just because I didn't want to live in fear, and the world was a really scary place at that time. And so I think it kind of like pushed me to look a little deeper. And so that's what I did. And I think I remember AIM called me one day and she was like, listen, I just want to tell you, like, I'm taking like a step back from AA and da 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, same. And she was like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, like I've been thinking about it, for a while now. I've been like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And like, I think I'm just like, it's like not the place I'm meant to be right now. Like whatever it was. And, that's what we connected on. It wasn't like a Amy's leaving, I'm leaving, or like Tay's leaving, Amy's leaving. It was like we both came together. She called me and I was like, no shit, like me too. And
I had already, so my decision that I made was that I was going to do these things. I knew the risks. I was working with, an energy healer. I had, all the support, my closest people. There was like a few like close people that knew, and I did it for a year without like my parents knowing, like without like any of my, like, I stopped sponsoring, like I did all the right things. But then like after I had been doing it for a year, I kind of went to everybody and was like, hey, like this is what I've been doing. Like, I had already like stopped going to meetings and all the things because of COVID, because it was like after Zoe, like I was pregnant when I had to have my gallbladder out.
Yep.
And they gave me fentanyl when I was pregnant. And it was one of the scariest things in my life. And I woke up from the surgery and they weren't supposed to have to give me it. And I remember getting the fentanyl and being like, oh my God, how did I live so many years of my life so numb to this? And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, like I've built a reality that I don't want to escape from anymore. Like, like getting built that message, like, it just, I didn't need to escape. I didn't need to feel numb. I didn't need to. And then like nothing happened, a few months after. It was like, oh wow, like I had that reaction. Like I had that reaction where I hated the way that it made me feel. I wanted to eat. I remember eating like peanut butter and graham crackers and my mouth was like so dry, and I was like, oh my God, I just need food in my system because I don't want to feel like this at all. And then like questioning that, because like we're taught, and this is my experience, right, that like once you do one, like you're never going to be able to stop. Like your phenomenon of craving is going to go off and running, and you're going to be shooting heroin and homeless and back to like the same way you were. And that was the fear. Like it was like fear, fear, fear. And I was like, oh my God, like wait a minute, like that didn't happen. That wasn't my reaction.
Yeah, at all.
Like, it was opposite. The complete opposite. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, how did I do this? Like, how was I this numb?
For so
long.
And
I dived into that. And like I had, over the 10 years that I had done what I had done with EMDR and all these other avenues of just sitting in my pain and like having this just re-feel what was
'cause
our
I do-
message?
yeah, that's important.
Feel.
We should touch, like, that's important to say again, like, this isn't like we came into AA, we only did AA and we left. Like, it's like we did like extensive fucking healing, you guys. Like, this is like goes beyond, like, this goes beyond the program. This goes like so much further. This goes like into shadow work, inner child work. Like, this is like we did, like Amy did EMDR. I did EMDR because she told me about EMDR. I wanted to do EMDR. Like, being sexually molested for like the first decade of your life like comes with many fucking challenges. It was starting to affect my marriage, starting to affect how I parent, because I would like get triggered so easily and snap at like the smallest things, and I couldn't understand why I was acting the way I was acting, all the things, right? So she, again, I took suggestions. She had gone to EMDR. She had done all these things. I went to EMDR. I went as far as like going to see a hypnotist because I thought if I just get hypnotized into thinking that like I'm all right, like I'm going to be all right. And it wasn't until, this past year, this past year now of like deep trauma work with my therapist and doing EMDR and realizing that like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And again, like she said, I am now living a life that like I no longer want to escape from. Like, I love my life. I love my kids. I love the community. I love the ups and downs. I love the bad days. I love the good days. I love all the shit I learn in between. I love everything about my life. Truly.
And when we add substances and, we have a beer or, we smoke a joint or whatever that looks like, it is to enhance our reality.
Celebratory.
It's celebratory. It's not because we're like, oh my God, we have these children. I need to drink a bottle of wine. Like,
what
I
a
don't
shit day. I'm gonna go home and chug a bottle of wine.
Yeah,
like, that's not,
oh, I need, this wine mom culture, like that. We're not here for that. Like, I don't think that's a great thing. Like, I don't think like, even like I'll never do like yoga and alcohol. Like, that's just like, that's not it for me personally. Yeah. Like, I just feel like the two, like what it is that we're celebrating birthday parties or like summertime, like life events, just like enjoying life, that we get to enhance our reality because we had such a horrible relationship with it for so long. It's almost like being able to rebuild that like relationship with like being able to enhance and like have this adult responsibility. Like, I don't drink and drive. Like,
and even that, like, that took a while. Like, not just like it's like when you first, well, I'm not like, okay, guys, go ahead, go drink, but it's like when you first start drinking again after years of programming of being like, if you drink, you're going to die. It took a long time. I'm still deprogramming, dude.
Yeah, same.
Like, I'm still, like, I'll go to the liquor store and get, like, a bottle of champagne and be like, oh, my God, should I be buying this right now? Like,
somebody's going to see me.
Somebody's going to see me. Am I going to get in trouble? Like, am I going to be arrested right now?
Yeah,
like,
it's wild.
It's wild. Like, the deprogramming that I literally have to do. Like, I remember, I think, my mom is, like, my best friend, and she's, like, the number one person I would never want to disappoint. And I remember I sat her down, and she had just got back from her ayahuasca retreat. And I was like, listen, there's something I want to tell you. And she's like, what? And she like already fucking knew. She's like, what?
Yeah, we
and
know
I was
our
like,
moms.
Exactly. I was like, well, I've been drinking. And she, at this point, she had already known that I was like taking edibles for like my trauma and whatever, just using edibles as like a form of Xanax. Like, no, I don't want a prescription of Xanax.
Yeah.
I would rather take an edible.
A plant.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
would rather take an edible and feel better about myself.
We'll definitely touch base on that, to where like the stigma of marijuana, which is a plant, and I am prescribed by New Hampshire medical marijuana, of being like, oh, it's fine for people in AA to be prescribed Xanax and Klonopin and all
Adderall,
and Vyvanse and all these things. But it's totally not fine that I get prescribed a plant that is created for healing, and there's a stigma and a societal norm because I could have potentially used it as an escape in the past. It's just like, what is that even? Like, I know. That's fine. So one is chemically engineered to literally deprogram, numb you, like messes up your whole chemical imbalance, like all the things, right? Compared to like a plant that like grows out of the ground that Mother Nature gave us.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So when she got back from that retreat, she basically looked at me and was like, well, she was like, I had a feeling, but she's like, listen, I trust you. Do you trust you? And when she said that, I was just like, huh. Like, yeah, I do trust me. Because, like, I've got two beautiful babies that, like, I would never, like, when I say never, like, put them in harm's way. Like, they showed me a new meaning of, like, unconditional love that I'll never be able to explain. Obviously, moms out there, you know, like, that feeling is just so real. I think they truly showed me how to love myself. And I would never, like, I can say that, like, wholeheartedly. I would never put them in a situation where I ever thought that I would not be the best version of myself for them. Like, we're doing all of these things now. Like, we're going to all these retreats and looking at all these other avenues of healing for them. Like, we're doing this to be better for them. We're not doing this, like, in spite of them or like, you know what I mean?
Or to
It's like,
escape from them.
yeah, to escape
or
from them. Like, this is like for them. This is so I can be the best fucking person, best fucking mom I can be for my kids that there is to be. Like,
the person that we needed when we were kids.
exactly.
And these things weren't available to our parents' generation.
Exactly.
Like, these things are all just being, like, unraveled and unhidden. And, you know, everybody, you know, has been, like, taught, like, these certain, like, don't talk about your feelings. Just make everything look good on the outside. Just sweep it under the rug. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like,
yeah, you're fine. You're fine. It was always
fine.
you're fine. You're fine.
No, we're not fine.
We're not fine. Not fine at all.
No,
you know
and
what
we
fine
have
stands
been.
for, guys? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's what my mom always told me.
Yeah, no, we're not fine.
We're not fine.
Or we are fine and we're all those other things.
Yeah, fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Yeah, you know, it just is what it is, you know, but we're here to talk about it and be honest and raw and vulnerable. And we're going to have a lot of people. And that's the other thing too, like, this podcast is obviously going to grow, and we have people lined up that are going to talk about breath work. We're going to have people that have never been in AA that are going to talk about organizing. We're going to have people in here that talk about how plant care is like self-care and
hormonal balancing.
Yeah, like
all of it.
Anything and everything we just want to talk about. We don't, you know, this is very important. 12-step is very important and all those things. And we'll probably touch about it a lot on and off and all the things. We'll talk about yoga. We're going to talk like literally everything and anything that we can talk about. That's what we're here for. This is going to grow. Holistic healing.
That is what this is, you guys. Life after trauma with holistic healing.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about trauma, and there's going to be trigger warnings.
A lot of trauma.
And we're going to, you know, we're going to be really raw, and we're going to be really vulnerable, and we're just, like, really hoping that, you know, this gets out there to, like I said, even one person. And we're going to not only have this avenue, but we're going to have our in-person Sacred Rebels Women's Circles if you're in the Manchester, New Hampshire area, where we're going to meet on the third Fridays. And our end goal, you know, here in the next at least 2 to 5 years, we'll just put it out there, is like to hold women's retreats. Yep. And
to have that sacred space for people to share those life experiences with one another, to let another person know. Especially, I feel like this is another thing too, like, I'm so grateful for AA because it showed me all the possibilities of what healing and community and, like, women and sisterhood can look like. So I feel like people who have never experienced AA, I feel like that's, I mean, it's how do I word this? Like, it's not a disadvantage, but it's almost like a...
Well, we always used to say everybody should do the 12 steps.
Yeah, like, everyone could benefit from the 12 steps.
Literally, like, every single person.
Yeah, there's lessons to be learned, and I feel like it's almost like a it's just different. It's just different when you haven't had that sense of community and understanding in AA. So this is why we want to bring retreats around, especially for the people who've never been part of a program or who haven't been part of that, but still have, like, similar trauma, addiction, any type of those, like, backgrounds. Because I think that, you know, this what sparked all this was literally our best friends trip when we went to Mass those couple weekends ago. Like, that was like, we sat down and we were like, okay, this is it. Like, how can we help women collectively? Like, how can we reach hundreds of women. Like, how can we do this and help as many people as we can? And we just thought, fuck it, we're going to do a podcast, and we're just going to learn as we go, figure it out.
Say what we gotta say.
Say what we gotta say. Leave it all out there. Take what you want. Leave what you want. Don't listen.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is just, if you relate, you relate. And if you don't, that's okay too. Like, thanks for listening anyways. But we're just here to reach that one person who feels so alone and out of touch, or out of a community, because they no longer see themselves in a certain situation that they used to see themselves in, basically.
Yeah, and it's like okay to shift paths, and I don't want to say outgrow. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
because there isn't like,
perfect.
yeah, like if one thing worked for you, and I even think that the big book talks about that. Like, if something works, like, you use it until it works, and if it stops working, like, you throw it out and you don't do it anymore, and you try something new. Like, and the try something new isn't like going and trying substances. The trying something new that's not what we're promoting here. Like, you know what I mean? We barely drink. Like, it's like on occasion, like I said, I use medical marijuana as prescribed. But it's about finding maybe EMDR, or finding a yoga community, or finding a music community, or finding a gaming community, or just finding a dance community, like somewhere where you can express yourself as the fullest version of yourself and feel so accepted for who you are wholly, right? Because that's like what AA did for you, right? Like, you walk in the meetings, you're like in a room, and you're like, oh my God, all these people get me.
Yeah.
So, like,
I've
arrived, at the, like, place of, like, where I need to be. And, like, I haven't ever felt that way, because I always felt judged or insecure or whatever. So, just finding if that stops working for you, that's okay that it stops working for you. Yeah. It's okay to allow that to stop working for you and to find something else that works for you. As long as you're living by the same principles, you have to give back. You have to continue to do self-work. You have to continue to sit in your feelings and feel the things that you have to feel. And you can't escape reality, because, like, we have to be here to fully participate in our human experience.
Yes.
And that's what we're here to share. Our human experience that we've collectively, like, grown together, met amazing people on the way. Like, we have so many cool guest lines up, so many different things.
So many incredible people, like, truly, with incredible stories and incredible solutions. That's just it. We want to provide solutions for you guys. Like, we want to provide alternative solutions, aka holistic healing, like all things holistic healing. So we're just really excited. We're very passionate about it. I think that you guys will get a lot from this. I think we will get a lot from this, me and Aim. I think this already, like, after tonight, I'm just so excited. I feel like my cup is so full. Like, I just feel so grateful. But
we feel so official. If you see our setup, we're gonna like this whole thing. This
whole setup, like,
so official.
We got recording
so official
studio mics right now with the headphones.
We sound really sexy in these things.
The whole bit.
Like, normally, and it was funny, if anybody ever heard me talk in AA, I would be like, oh my God, because I was a circuit speaker, and I, like, spoke at big conventions and all these things and told my story. And we'll get deeper into those, like, organically. We'll tell our story. But I always used to say I sound like a chipmunk. I do not feel like I sound like a chipmunk right now. I'm like, ooh,
get it. Yeah. Funny side note, hubby, I made Dill put these headphones on. I was like, babe, you have to hear the way I sound right now. And he's like, ooh, say something dirty.
Ooh.
Just so legit,
Daddy
guys.
Dill.
We're excited. Shout out, babe.
We love Dill. He's an amazing husband.
He is.
So grateful.
He's the best.
Super supportive of us. Always so good.
Of all our antics.
Woo.
All of our ideas.
Well, we'll get into it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, we won't. Well, maybe one day we'll get into some stories. But we love you all.
Yeah.
Remember, the message from the card tonight is
feel. How do you feel?
How do you feel?
Take note of how you feel. How are
Yeah.
you feeling right now?
And we have to feel to heal. Even though that wasn't the podcast name, neither was Former Tenant. But sorry that one didn't win.
We'll talk
So
more about that later.
Sacred Rebels is here to stay.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be how we have to feel to heal.
Yes.
And how we have to find a community of people that like love us unconditionally, like no matter what, and hold us accountable. Be like, you know what, that probably wasn't the greatest idea, but I love you anyway.
No, don't post that meme yet. No, that's not the one.
Not the one, not
the
today.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for sticking with us, even the ones who know our story. If you're just finding out that we've left AA and you're feeling a little iffy about that, go ahead and reach out to us. Like, we are open books. We're here to answer any questions.
We'll have our Instagram and Facebook, and it's both of us running it.
We're just here to live by example, right? Like, that's just it. Like, we are here living our living amends. We're living our living amends, and that's just it. Like, we could talk about it all day long, but it's like we're showing it. We're proving it. We're showing it. We're living it. Like, we are okay, and I think I'm the most okay I've been in a really long time. Truly.
Weirdly, I could probably say the same.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for every lesson. Grateful for every lesson. But I think we should always close, this is our first episode, so we start with a deep breath. I think we should also end with a deep breath. So it's always going to be a lot to process. And we're always going to give you a week to, process it and to breathe with it and to take what you want and leave the rest.
Yeah. Take what you want, leave the rest. That's right.
Yeah. And through the nose.
Till next time, guys. Thanks so much for listening.
See you later.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to what we have to say. It means the world. As always, we want to end this episode by reminding you that we are not medical professionals and we are not giving any type of medical advice. We simply are sharing our experience and solutions.
We are here with the intentions of reminding you that you are never alone and that everyone's healing journey is unique to the individual. Stay well, Sacred Rebels. See you next time.